Hey folks, this is Kelani. This is our last chance to throw all of our weird and crazy ideas out there about the next World of Warcraft expansion, as we're assuming we'll get solid information when BlizzCon finally rolls around. Feels like it's taking forever. So for this video I'm going to use any and all information we have, which includes the end of the Legion expansion and what happens after the Antorus raid. So spoilers abound, and that's the only warning you're going to get. Let's have a chat about what we haven't seen yet, what fits with the current story, and overall where we expect the next World of Warcraft expansion to take us. So, at the end of Legion, we're basically saying goodbye to the Burning Legion and farewell to Sargeras and Illidan, at least for now. The last time we imprisoned someone forever, and left a more than capable warden in charge, they were freed and sparked most of the trouble we've been dealing with over the last decade while playing World of Warcraft. Illidan being released really did cause a lot of stuff to go down, even if it was the necessary evil, or not evil if you take Legion's events into account. Sargeras is going to be imprisoned and Illidan will be standing guard for all eternity. Which means we'll probably go free him someday because we need his power for whatever reason. And oh yeah, sorry Illidan, we might have been wrong all along, but hey, at least you got to chill for a bit. But if that does happen, it's probably quite a ways away. So for now, the Burning Legion is done, Sargeras is dealt with as best we can, and Illidan is out of the picture. Where do we go from here? The wound in Silithus is probably a good place to begin. During the fight with the World Soul of Argus, it would seem as though Sargeras manages to stab Azeroth right in the booty. I mean Silithus. We're not sure why, how, or if that actually means anything, but we are assuming the large dust cloud we can see covering Azeroth during several parts of Antorus is actually Sargeras descending on our world. Titans have been described before as a cosmic dust type thing, so that kind of fits. How Dust can wield a sword and stab a planet, I'll have no idea, but maybe we see him materialize for real, and that's when we get the jump on him and Illidan slams him in a prison. Either way, it seems like Azeroth is bleeding, which probably isn't ideal. Khadgar has a few things to say about the power of Titan blood after we defeat Argus. Apparently it's some pretty potent stuff. Again, we have no idea what's going to come from this, but we can hazard a few guesses. The first would be something relating to the Kuraji, who are still beneath the sands of Silithus. I doubt they'll take too kindly to a massive Titan sword just stabbing through their subterranean homes, but the greater problem is actually the essence of a Titan's blood. Azeroth is still a sleeping Titan, so this huge wound is probably going to be a source of great power. If the Kuraji decide to use this power for something relating to the Old Gods, that could be what kicks off the next expansion. It seems like the Old Gods would be a safe bet for at least one of the future expansions, because they're the servants of the Void Lords. The Void Lords being the supposed super big bad of the universe. Sargeras was attempting to destroy all life in the universe in some backwards way of battling the Void Lords. That's why I said we'll probably end up asking him for help or something later on, but Cthulhu is still down there somewhere, assuming we didn't finish him off for good, which we probably didn't. I don't think we've actually managed to kill an old god just yet. They're meant to be some huge monstrosities which expand quite far down into the depths of the planet. The stuff we've been attacking and defeating is more like a toe or a nose just poking out of the surface. So if Cthulhu is still alive and kicking and Azeroth's blood is just leaking into the sands of Silithus, that could spell disaster. But Khadgar does say something interesting regarding the blood and those who would seek its power. He specifically says those who would want to control Azeroth would do anything to get their hands on it. I don't know if that really applies to the Old Gods all that much, because they seem more interested in destroying the whole place and corrupting Azeroth as a whole. I guess you could argue they'd still want to control it, so they could corrupt it, but if we look at the factions that would want to control Azeroth while keeping it in one piece, we have quite a few interesting targets. In some of the older expansions, where the Horde and Alliance were at each other's throats, we did any and everything we could to gain an advantage over the other. I wonder if a new source of power could pit the Horde and Alliance against each other again. We would have fought tooth and nail to hold a source of such power in the past, but I'm not sure if this applies anymore after we've banded together for the greater good quite a few times now, bringing everyone together to take down the Legion, and then going home and becoming sworn enemies again just over some random thing in Silithus would be a bit strange. It seems more appropriate for us to work together to solve the problems in Silithus rather than make them 10 times worse by fighting over it. Now, there are quite a few loose threads which need tying up regarding Sylvanas and Greymane and a few other points of contestation, but overall it seems like we're closer to working together as opposed to destroying each other, especially with Anduin on the throne of Stormwind. But that doesn't mean others wouldn't want that power. Pretty much anyone we've come across that's stood against us has had their own big plans of domination, whether it's creating their own super special dragon flight, unleashing the armies of the dead across Azeroth, a mighty iron horde from the past, or another invasion from the Burning Legion. We've seen plenty of other factions have their own motives for wanting to rule the World of Warcraft. Any of those factions could hear the news in Silithus and work their way over to try and get a piece of the power. It could even turn into this massive brawl between any faction with enough interest. Imagine the Twilight's Hammer going toe-to-toe with the Karaji, while the Centaurs fight with Ungoro dinosaurs or something crazy. It could be pretty fun, but I also don't think that's pretty likely. I imagine Blizzard will use Silithus as something to drive the story forward. It's probably going to be a specific faction that comes for the blood of a Titan, and it may be a faction we haven't encountered yet. So, Cthulhu could rear his ugly head again thanks to the Gash Sargeras left, but there's another old god who might enter the playing field. Nizar is still hiding somewhere under the ocean, and we do have a few loose ends from Legion which sort of lead us out there. Azshara makes a brief appearance in Legion and wants to seize control of the Tidestone of Golganath. She sends forth her armies and they ultimately fail, and that sort of ends that chapter. So what happens after that? Does Azshara just sort of forget we're here and goes back to doing whatever she's doing wherever she is? It makes sense that she would step out of the shadows if she knows her armies alone can't stand up to the heroes of Azeroth. Or maybe we realise we need to go deal with her sooner or later. From what little we know of Azshara, as she and her brethren sank into the depths of the ocean, they made a deal of sorts with, we're assuming, N'Zoth, which is why they were turned into Naga. So the Naga control the oceans and N'Zoth is down there somewhere. Seems like a good excuse for us to do some hunting and exploring. We might even have a port in a storm, as it were. Kul'tiras has yet to be included on our maps, and apparently its whereabouts is sort of unknown, due to it being shifted out to sea by the movement of tectonic plates. That basically allows Blizzard to put it wherever the hell they want, because, well, reasons. I'm fine with that if we get new content, but the main reason Kul'tiras comes up is because of the items that were data mined a little while ago. There were a few sets of Kul'tiras armor that seemingly had no purpose, but they were called Kul'tiras Quest armor. So if Kul'tiras doesn't have something to do with the next expansion or some part of the story going forward, that's going to be a really weird thing for us to catch. Blizzard did remove those armor sets before patch 7.3 went live, so maybe we weren't supposed to see them, which leads me to believe they're actually important for something. If we do travel to Kul'tiras and it's out in the middle of nowhere, it's the perfect staging ground for our adventures under the sea. There is another reason that Kul'tiras might be important for our story after Legion, though. Jaina wasn't all too happy at the start of Legion, if you recall. After the Horde were allowed back into Dalaran, she sort of just rage quit, and we assume she ran off to Kul'tiras, seeing as we sort of maybe blew up Theramore. That means if we do end up in the South Seas expansion, as many of us expect, Kul'tiras might not actually be a friendly safe haven for us, which has other implications for our future. It seems like Jaina might be important because she's the figurehead for Warcraft on the BlizzCon key graphics this time around. You'd think a character who hasn't really been seen all expansion wouldn't be important enough or in the spotlight enough to warrant being used as the ambassador for the Warcraft franchise, but here she is in all her glory. Her angry, seething, horde-hating glory. And another piece of this would-be puzzle might have just been revealed as well. A new World of Warcraft book by Christy Golden is available for pre-order on Amazon. It doesn't have any graphics yet, no cover page or anything like that, but it does have a title, Before the Storm. This is an official tie-in novel, which usually means it covers events not seen in the game which tie things together. Similar novels were Illidan for Legion, War Crimes for Warlords of Draenor, Tides of War for Mists of Pandaria, and The Shattering for Cataclysm. So Before the Storm will take place after we finish with the Burning Legion, but before everything goes down in the next expansion. Before the Storm. What storm? I assume it's going to be something pretty huge considering it's the title of the book. So that storm might be what really kicks off the next expansion. If Blizzard didn't want to create more underwater adventures but wanted to keep the focus on the seas, they could conjure up a storm which brought the Naga to us, instead of having to go diving for them. The storm could bring a massive flood, and with it the armies of the Naga and Queen Azshara herself. They could be challenging us in a potential moment of weakness. We just got back from Argus, we're battered and beaten from dealing with the Burning Legion. This could be their perfect time to strike. There's also something else that came up which might lend weight to this theory. There was a supposed leak on Reddit and MMO Champion which seemed to show the logo of a new World of Warcraft expansion, which read Tides of Vengeance. If that turns out to be true, it would certainly fit in with everything we've already been talking about. Either way you look at it, it seems like a South Seas expansion is definitely a strong possibility. A lot of info that we currently have leads us to that conclusion, but I do wonder how quickly things would progress. We just got back from destroying the Burning Legion. I wonder if the start of the expansion will be more of a break from the crazy world-threatening problems. A change of pace would definitely be welcome, so maybe we'll just chill for a bit, get things cleaned up, and then a patch or two somewhere down the line we'll have to go take out Azshara or Nizar, or maybe even Cthulhu. Maybe this wave comes and wipes out a whole bunch of stuff. There's so many ways this could go with just the South Seas alone, and I'm excited to see what we have in store. If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on a South Seas expansion with kul'tiras, a not so happy Jaina, some old god goodness with Nizar, Cthulhu and Azshara mixed in there somewhere, and maybe some crazy cults spawning around the wound in Silithus. Watch me be entirely wrong though, sod's law and all that, but that's it for this video. If you have any questions or queries, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, or hop on over to Discord. We have a server at discord.gg/Kelani, great place to come ask questions or just hang out. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.